Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining today's info session about the Disability Support Professional Program. My name's Megan McDonald. I'm a student recruitment coordinator here at NSCC, and we've got lots of information to share with you today about this new program. I wanted to start off today with a couple of important acknowledgements, then we're going to roll into some program information. So first off, I've got a land acknowledgement. NSCC is located in Mi'kma'ki, the unceded territory and traditional homeland of the Mi'kmaq Nation. Our relationship is based on a series of peace and friendship treaties between the Mi'kmaq Nation and the Crown dating back to 1725. As treaty beneficiaries, we recognize that we're all treaty people. Next, I have an African Nova Scotian recognition. NSCC recognizes the African Nova Scotians as a distinct group who arrived here 400 years ago. From that time on, they've contributed to the infrastructure and economic wealth of the towns and cities they've helped to build, but from which they could not benefit. Let us learn more about how our respective communities were shaped by the historical contributions of African Nova Scotians to Mi'kma'ki. So for anyone who is joining us live today, it is March 6th, 2025. You are welcome to send questions in through the chat throughout today's session, and we'll leave some time at the end to answer some of those live. Now, I know we have a really big audience watching us live today. It's exciting to see so many attendees and so much interest in today's session. But what that means is we may run out of time. We may not be able to answer everyone's question live today. If that's the case, or maybe you have questions after the session, I encourage you to email us at recruitment@nscc.ca. We could also send you a link to the recording of the presentation. So make a note of that. I'll make sure that we show you the email address again at the end of today's presentation. But if you are wanting to send in any of those questions, you'll see a picture of the chat function here on the left-hand side of the slide. So you can just type your questions in and we'll be able to get through to some of those. One other note is that if you are watching this as a recording later, I recommend just checking back on the website on the program page, just in case there have been any updates made. But all of the information that we're sharing is accurate and updated as of March 6th, 2025. So my name, obviously, Megan McDonald, as I said earlier, from Student Recruitment, and I'm joined with some colleagues from the Disability Support Professional Program. So we've got Donna White, who is a school manager, who is here to share some great information, and Chris Ferris may be joining us in a little bit. We're having a few tech issues, but hoping that Chris can jump in and share some program info and answer some questions before we wrap up today. So just to give you a little kind of overview of the options in terms of campuses for the program, Disability Support Professional is offered at 3 different locations. So Sydney Waterfront Campus, it's a full-time in-person delivery. The King's Tech Campus, which is in Kentville, is also a full-time in-person delivery. And then our Lunenburg Campus, which is based in Bridgewater, is a part-time blended delivery. So that blended part means that there will be some classes you're taking online and some classes you're taking in person. And that part-time program will take 2 years to complete, whereas the full-time in-person delivery is a 1-year program to completion. These 3 options all have an intake this coming September 2025. Here are some more details. You'll see that the typical program length for full-time studies being a year, but that part-time length changes a little bit to 2 years. When we're talking about admission requirements for this program, there aren't any specific courses or grades that we need to see. What we're looking for is for folks who've had completion of high school, so they've got that high school diploma or equivalent. And the equivalent could be the GED test, the new replacement for GED. We also do a free test at NSCC called the TOWS test. That could be an option for you. And if you are coming from potentially outside of Canada, if you're potentially an international student, note that this program isn't eligible for a postgraduate work permit. You are still welcome to apply. We're happy to take international applicants to the program. However, the postgraduate work permit eligibility doesn't extend to disability support professional. Here's a little bit more information about program requirements. If you've been checking out the program page online on our website and you're looking at the admission requirements section, you'll see that completion of high school bit. But what you'll also see is some information about some other requirements. So things like a criminal record check, vulnerable sector check, there's a first aid requirement. Also some mention of immunizations, child abuse registry checks. These are requirements that you don't need to provide when you're applying. When you apply to this program, we're simply looking for those transcripts, which could be from high school, or if you're coming from a college or university experience, you could provide those transcripts instead. All of these other program requirements, they're more connected to the work placements that you do in the program. And so the school will be in touch with you about getting all of these record checks, immunizations to us at the appropriate time. So you don't need to take any action right now to get a criminal record check, for example. We'll be in touch to make sure that you've got a timeline in mind for getting all of that paperwork to us at the right time.
Just to make note, Megan, the immunizations would only be required for organizations that would require immunizations, so it's not a program requirement. But if students decide to do a placement that requires those immunizations, they would be required to have those on hand.
Perfect. Yeah, and are there, I know that potentially like the IWK hospital, for example, they would require immunization. So there might be a number of different partners that would be looking for them.
Yeah, so usually students identify fairly early where they would like to do their placements. And so that's an easy check for students and faculty to assess.
Sounds good. Here's a bit of an overview of, in a kind of wide sense, all of the kinds of things that you'll be learning as a student in the program. Donna, did you want to give us a little bit of an overview of what students can expect in terms of skills and curriculum and what they can look forward to?
Sure. So really a big part of the program is being able to apply a human rights-based approach to be able to address and support community inclusion. So the disability support program is moving their services in a different way, and so based on some of those changes to services, a human rights-based approach is a big piece of how you approach supporting somebody with a disability. So part of what you'll learn all kinds of different things about various disabilities and different strategies to be able to support people with these disabilities in ways that meet their needs. The philosophy and skills that you will need, you'll develop that in terms of helping support self-determination for the people that you support and decision making. So how do you help that person lead their own decisions in a wide range of areas? The other piece is really gaining a better understanding of professional, legal, and ethical responsibilities as a direct support professional in the field. How to work effectively in teams. So you could be working with a number of different individuals, an interdisciplinary team with a wide range of individuals that could be supporting an individual. Through utilizing effective communication skills. You may be working with individuals that have very different communication styles and may have different ways to communicate. So learning those skills and tools to be able to do that effectively. Also some important skills related to how do you support somebody with educating on medication, healthy eating, aging, sexuality, employment, and what are the assistive technology tools that are available for individuals based on their needs and wants as well. So.
And here's a look at some of the courses that would be covering this material. So we've got a couple of slides here to show you. This one covers how the courses are separated for full-time students. So that's students who take one academic year to complete the program. So you can see we've got semester 1 and then broken into semester 2, and then we've got semester 3. So semester 1 would begin in September, semester 2 in January, and then semester 3 is that spring semester where students are finishing up their practicum. And I just noticed one typo here that I made. It says practicum 3 in semester 3, but there's only 2 practicums. So we're looking at the semester 2 practicum as being practicum 1, and then semester 3 is practicum 2. Dawn, is there any info you wanted to share on this page?
I will just say that this is the full-time study. So it is an in-person delivery. Some of the programs, as you can see, are very specific. Foundations of Inclusive Practice is really looking at what legislation is involved with disability supports, understanding the historical development of how supports evolved over the course of time. You'll be looking at the Remedy Report and the UN Convention of Persons with Disabilities. Also, we talked a little bit about the interpersonal skills, understanding how somebody develops from a young child to an adult, and then how that would differ and what would be some of the supports that you could provide across the lifespan. The supporting activities of daily living, so that really entails supporting the everyday things that we all do around, you know, being in the community, attending different events, making meals, housekeeping, doing all the normal things that we do in our own day-to-day life. Also, just around the assistive technologies and the communication strategies. So there are a number of assistive technology pieces that are available: speech to text, text to speech, iPad use, all kinds of different programs in terms of what that looks like. So potentially there's a lot to learn, and embedded in all of these programs is a human rights approach that looks at intersectionality and using a trauma-informed lens as well. So the full-time programs will be offered at Sydney Waterfront campus and at King's Tech campus. And yes, I'll just, yeah. And then I don't know if you have a slide on the part-time.
We do, yeah. So
Awesome.
this is the same courses, as you can all see, but just broken down into the 3 semesters over the 2 years of study. So this will give you an idea. It really kind of lightens your course load by half, I would say. So that could be a popular option for folks who are looking to maybe work a little bit more or attend to other kinds of responsibilities.
The one thing that I would like to make note is just that in the part-time delivery, it's a combination. It's a blended program, so which means that there would be synchronous or real-time online classes, as well as asynchronous, which is where you get to do some of the work at your own pace and your own time, and in-person time as well. So it's a flexible delivery, really to support those that could be working in the field, or others that are working in a different field but looking to make a change.
And this part-time option could also be interesting for folks who are maybe living a little outside of the Lunenburg campus area, but are open to a commute on those days when classes would be in person. So a little more flexibility with some of the online classes as well. Although speaking of kind of in-person and online, the practicum placements included in the program would typically be exclusively in person, I'm imagining, Donna. And they're built into both the 1 year and the 2 year part-time options. And so you get a ton of experience working in the field. It's 240 hours of field placement. So you're really getting to apply the knowledge and skills that you've been working on throughout your time in the classroom. Those opportunities, though, Donna, they're typically unpaid, correct?
Yes, you are correct.
And then any kind of cost associated with transportation, or if you're looking for something a little further from home, any kind of accommodation, that would be the responsibility of the student to cover. But it's my understanding that there's often lots of options local to students, so something in their hometowns.
Yes, there are a wide range of different service providers across the province that work specifically with the disability support program as well. So I know we're going to be talking about bursaries a little bit later, but that would be an area that, you know, you get an opportunity to actually go into organizations and test it out before you would be looking to be employed in a specific agency. So lots of opportunity for sure in a wide range of settings. So there's educational setting, you know, community-based, working in somebody's home, independent living opportunities in terms of being able to support somebody, residential, employment-based. So it's a wide-reaching area that there's lots of opportunity to work in a wide range of areas.
Yeah, fantastic. We've got a list here of some of the practicum partners. We've broken them down by area just to give you an idea, you know, if you're local to any of these regions, some of the organizations that students would be working with. And Chris, I see that you have been able to join us. This is faculty member Chris Ferris. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Sorry about that. I had a little bit of a technical difficulty and had to switch locations quickly, but I'm here now.
No problem. Yeah, we've just been kind of going along. We were talking a bit about the courses, the schedule, and now we've been talking a bit about practicum. So Dawn has given folks an idea of what that looks like, and we're just talking about some of the placement partners right now. So feel free to jump in if there's anything you want to add.
Absolutely. I'll let us keep going and then jump in.
All right. So practicum partners, you know, so this is a current list that is something that it's a living list. It would grow and change. So certainly, you know that this isn't static by any means, but we've got some lists of previous partners from the Sydney area and the Kentville area, and then another one here from the Lunenburg area. And I'm imagining too, you know, the whole sort of program staff, faculty, there's a lot of connection to the field and to all of the organizations across the province. So, you know, I'm imagining too, if a student had a particular idea about the kind of organization or the kind of work that they wanted to get some experience in, that could be something that, you know, could be looked at to seek that placement out with maybe a new partner in the province.
Absolutely, Megan. Yeah, we work, you know, closely with students to make sure that they're getting the practicum opportunities that they want. It's a very diverse field, so we want to make sure that students get kind of aligned with the community partners where they might see themselves working with in the future.
And it's quite common, really, for all NSCC programs, for those practicum partners to later become employers of NSCC graduates. So it's such a good way to kind of test out a particular employer, a typical, you know, type of work in the field before, you know, applying for that job. And Chris, I know that when we were chatting, you know, previously about the program and all of the career options, you were saying how, excuse me, you were saying that if, you know, someone is looking online for job opportunities in the field, there are hundreds of potential job titles out there that folks with disability support professional expertise could potentially be employed under. Do you want to share a little bit about career options, where folks are ending up, the kind of work they're doing?
Yeah, I can jump in on that. So the program and where most of our students end up is kind of in the residential support side of things. So helping people in their homes with their activities of daily living, the things they engage in, whether it's cooking meals, supporting them to engage in the community. Another area students end up in is kind of in recreation and day programming. So helping people find things to do during the day. And you know, planning and facilitating recreation-based activities. And another one would be kind of the employment side of things, and that can look a little bit different depending on where you're at, but it could be supporting people directly in employment, or it could be helping people find employment kind of in the community. And we also have students that kind of enter the education system as well, working, you know, as EAs or TAs, depending on where you're at in the province in our education system.
Cool. So you're really able to, you know, take a look at all the different types of support, different types of services that you can offer in the career. But I think it's also interesting that you can really choose, you know, across the lifespan, maybe what age of folks you want to be working with. If you're interested in working with kids more, or teens, adults, seniors, there's really opportunities all across the spectrum. So here's a look at some of the fees, and we're going to go into a little bit more about some of the funding that's available, which is really exciting and new for this program. But just to give you kind of general idea about tuition and fees, we've got amounts here for full-time students, so that's that one-year program. We have a domestic student fee, and then there's a different student tuition fee for international learners. And then you can see in the second part of the slide here, the part-time tuition amounts. So it works out really to the full-time fee just cut in half. And you can see that that's spread out over year one and then year two. And again, different amounts here for domestic learners and international learners. But the aspect of sort of tuition and funding that we're really excited to share are these new bursaries that are for disability support professional students. And so these bursaries are made to cover tuition, textbooks, and student fees. So that really helps with the overall cost of the program. And they're open to folks who are Canadian citizens or permanent residences. And you are able to qualify for the program if you sign a return to service agreement, which means that you're agreeing to work in the province, in the field, for 1 year after graduation. And that's really designed to keep trained professionals in the province and working in the field. Now, if you're interested in applying for the bursary funding, you can do that once you've confirmed a program seat. So you'd first apply to the DSP program, you would be accepted in that program, you'd say, great, I'm coming, you confirm that seat, and then you would be able to log into the NSCC Awards portal. We've got a URL here at the bottom of the screen. That Student Awards page is where you're going to head. And then you would be able, after March 20th, 2025, to access the application for this award and many more. NSCC gives out over $3 million in award, scholarship, bursary funding every year to students. So this is one of a number of opportunities that you can apply for. We've noted the deadline for this bursary on the slide here, currently being listed as June 5th. And so if you're watching this live, applying now to the program will really line you up really nicely in terms of the time it takes to review your application, confirm your seat, and then apply within that window. But I will also note, if you're watching a recording of this later, note that we may extend that deadline for the bursary as needed to accommodate later applicants for the program. Essentially, we will continue to keep that award open as we are filling seats for the program. Once the program's full, then that would shut down. But if you're watching now, you're applying soon, keep June 5th in mind as your deadline for applying. And then here is just a little bit more details about the tuition fees and also then what that bursary covers. So anything that's been circled there in red on the slide is what the DSP bursary will help to fund. So you can see for domestic students, that's the tuition cost. There's fees associated with being a student. Those are covered as well. Anything additional though, like health and dental benefits, that's still the responsibility of the student to cover, as would a parking pass if you wanted to drive to campus. And then we've got some additional costs here to consider. And so you can see there's a variety here. Textbooks, that would be covered under that DSP bursary funding. But then there's a number of other potential costs. So we talked a bit about those record checks, the potential immunizations that you might need, any kind of placement travel accommodation. Those would still be the responsibility of the student. And I will note as well that these additional costs, these aren't costs that are paid to NSCC the same way your tuition is. These are here as estimations for what you may need to consider providing for yourself as a learner. So meaning the last line there, the technology requirement, that budget range computer, if you're buying a new one, we've estimated that you may need to set aside about $900 for that. But if you already have a computer you can use, you don't need to buy another one. So this is just here for your budgeting purposes. Chris or Donna, did you want to jump in and add anything about any of these costs, different kinds of training that we're seeing on screen here?
Yeah, I can comment on some of that. So yeah, so as you said, so these are kind of estimated costs, and some of these, I'm not sure if you covered this or not, but things like immunizations, for example, might be a necessity for some students depending on what practicum location they may choose. But if you choose not to do that and not to go to those practicum sites, then those costs might vary. Yeah.
Just maybe one note, Megan, that the costs that are featured here are for a full-time program. So some of the costs would be divided if an applicant decided to apply for the part-time program that, say, for example, with placement travel, that would be half of the placement travel for, in
Right,
first year and second year.
Yeah, for sure. Another thing to think about with funding, I think, everyone should of course, be applying for the DSP bursary if you qualify, but you can also be, of course, thinking about the other NSC student awards. That would be true for international students as well. You could apply for the other NSCC awards. And if you are a student in Canada, you could also complement that with a provincial student loan. So, even though there are additional program costs here, there are supports to help you meet those needs as well. So one sort of next step here, thinking about, you're interested in the program, we're going to move on to some questions next, but just to give you a quick little idea about how you get yourself to become a student in the program, you can apply online. We've got apply now buttons all over the website, or you could head to nscc.ca/apply. It's an online application, pretty straightforward. It asks for some personal details like your name, your address. It asks about your education level and experience. So you'll be able to say if you've completed high school, maybe you're currently a high school student, there's a place to put that information in, or if you've done any college or university training, etc. So we're asking for those details. We'll also need a transcript showing that you meet that requirement of completion of high school or equivalent. So that might mean if you, for example, attended a Nova Scotia high school and graduated after 2012, you can actually put your student ID number in the application, and we'll be able to retrieve your transcripts electronically. So you don't have to, get them from the school, or otherwise you'd need to contact your former school, have them email or mail the transcripts to us directly. If you are educated outside of Canada, we have a page on our website that talks about all of the different documents we'd require and potential for language testing. If you have questions about that, feel free to email us in recruitment and we can help walk you through and show you the link. But after you've applied through that online portal, the last step is going to be a $40 application fee, and that can be paid, say, with Visa or with debit card. Know that if that application fee is a barrier for you, email us in recruitment before you apply, and we can help offer some support with that. So when you're ready to do your application, you know that you've got that covered. It will take us a few weeks to review your application once we've got your education documents, and then we reach out to let you know, if your applications have been successful, that you've been accepted. And at that time, you would pay a $200 deposit. That goes towards your future tuition or fees that would be due. And I know things work a little differently here because we have the bursary, but we still need to get that deposit from you. And then you would be able to begin your classes with us in September. And we would be in touch between now and then for events like Get Started to get you familiar with the program and your faculty before heading on campus with us in September, or starting some online work if you're doing the blended option. So this is the recruitment email address. You are more than welcome to reach out to us if you have any questions after today. But I can see that we've got lots of questions coming in the chat. So I'll open up the chat now, and Donna and Chris, I will throw some questions out to you for folks who are looking to find out a few more specifics about the program. I can see right now we've got a few people asking if we're able to share the link to the recording of the webinar. Absolutely. Feel free to email us at recruitment@nscc.ca and we can send it to you. Let's see. I've got someone curious about the one-year program, and if they're looking at attending a campus that offers the one-year program, are there ever any modifications for folks who potentially maybe would connect with accessibility services and look for a schedule that might allow them to take the program at a slower pace? Or would you recommend that they take a look at our Lunenburg campus?
Tom, do you want me to comment on that one? Okay, sure, yeah. So I think either, I mean, it's kind of, I guess, what's best for you, as you mentioned, and looks like you are acknowledging there's a part-time option available at the Lunenburg campus. But we do have a great accessibility team here at NSCC and provide lots of great accessibility resources and supports. And some of those do include like accommodations around scheduling and things like that. So we do have, pretty much every year, in my experience, there's at least some students that are on kind of a different path other than the former 2-year or the 1-year now program. So either is really an option, and I think it really is just up to you and your own preference what might work for you. But yes, there are certainly people here at the college that would work with you to figure out what schedule might work best for you, along with other accommodations other than scheduling, if those are helpful.
And if you are, thinking about applying and you know that some of those different kinds of supports or accommodations could be beneficial for you, when you're filling out your application, there is a spot where you can self-identify as an individual with a disability. And then that notifies our accessibility services team to connect with you over the summertime before your program begins, so they can talk to you about what kind of plan they should make going forward to support you in your learning.
Megan, I think that's exceptional advice. The earlier the better, I think, and then you can ensure when you hit classes starting in September, you're set up for success, and those accommodations are put in place to make sure you're ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Our student services team, accessibility services team, they're working all summer long. So if you have any questions beforehand, if you want to connect with someone, you can always reach out to them directly. Or if you don't know who to connect with, email us in recruitment and I will be able to connect you with the person who is best suited to help. But yeah, I agree, Chris. I think it's great to, ask those questions, get everything kind of, in place, have a plan before classes start in September. We've got a question here. I can answer this one, but you two also might have a bit more insight. This is someone who's asking, can existing support workers register for individual courses like the assistive tech course? My understanding is that there isn't an ability to take individual courses without, being enrolled in the full program. In some cases, in different programs and departments, there might be a few kind of online classes offered through our continuing education program or department where you can take kind of one-offs. But my understanding is it wouldn't be an opportunity that we'd offer in disability support professional. Is that the case, Donna?
You are correct. One thing that just the college does have prior learning recognition as well. So that's another process that potentially students could look at. So there's opportunity if you've taken a course from another university in the past, or you have evidence that you've completed the learning outcomes of a particular course, then there is a process that you can explore as a student for different courses as well. But you are correct, Megan, that right now at this point we do not have opportunity to be able to take one course at a time.
And Donna, your mention about recognizing prior learning is perfect timing for this next question. This person is saying that they've worked several hours with a practicum partner already. Is it possible that that experience could be counted towards the 240 hours required for the field placement?
Chris, you want to take that one?
But yeah, absolutely. So it's not uncommon in our existing, two-year program right now for students to be employed in the field during that 2 years. And yes, you can potentially get credit for that work experience towards those practicums through that prior learning process that Donna's mentioning. And we're kind of working on a little bit what that's exactly going to look like, but essentially you would be looking to demonstrate the outcomes that are connected to that particular course that you're looking to get credit for. Yes, absolutely, that is a possibility.
And I think that brings up a good point that there will be students in the program who are coming from prior experience in the field and are now looking to, expand their experience and their educational kind of knowledge. But there will also be folks who aren't coming with experience from the field. So, experience isn't a requirement, as we, saw when we were looking at those admission requirements. But if you are coming with previous experience, then that would be certainly welcomed, and could always explore whether any of those hours you've spent could potentially meet some learning outcomes for courses and be transferred. I've got a question next about the bursary and how that works, asking, do people find out at the time of acceptance that they've received the bursary, or do we look at those applications after June 5th? So that would be after June 5th. The application to the Disability Support Professional Program is a different application than the bursary one. So you would first apply to the program itself, you'd be accepted, confirm your seat, then you'd create another application in our awards section of the website for the bursary and other funding opportunities. So you wouldn't find out right away about the bursary outcome, but that would be something that we'd be looking at over the summer months, and then you'd have an update about that. Someone else is curious about, does the bursary only apply to full-time students? No, right? It's also done eligible, that part-time students also have eligibility to apply. It's really looking at any, domestic learner who is applying for the program. How many months overall is the program, Donna and Chris? Students would start in September, and then when do they typically finish up that, that final placement? I guess if they're doing the 1-year stream.
Yeah, so the 1-year stream would wrap up the end of spring term, so around mid to end May. So this year I think it ends around the 23rd of May, just to give you an idea. Yeah. And then if you're doing the 2-year, obviously, it would kind of end that time the first year, and then you'd finish that same time the second year.
Just just want to make mention in relation to the bursary as well, that there is a return to service that students would sign as part of that bursary. And that would mean that you would promise to work within the disability support program anywhere across the province with that sector for 1 year afterwards. So just want to make mention of that.
Yeah, that return to service agreement to stay active in the field is a big part of that funding. Someone's asking if NSCC provides daycare service for students and their kids. They do. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, do all 3 campuses where the program is offered have a daycare on site?
Kingstech does.
Kingstech, I believe Lunenburg does.
Sydney Waterfront campus does as well.
Okay, so yeah. Those daycares on campus, they are run by like an outside provider. So you would need to connect with the daycare provider for that specific location and to get your kid on the list. But yeah, it's a service that's utilized by NSCC students as well as staff. Someone's curious about that, the bursary kind of guidelines and, understanding that there's the rule that you're working for a year within Nova Scotia. Are there any kinds of restrictions around what makes an employer eligible or not? And would potentially everyone that we've included on that placement list qualify as an approved employer? How much flexibility is there?
I would say that right now that's an area that we're currently working on with our current students in DSS and trying to identify what would be the approved organizations for them to be able to be employed within. So it's not finished yet, so it's still work in progress. But yeah, that there would be specific organizations that would be identified to be able to continue the return to service with.
Yeah, so I guess I should say, I don't know if we mentioned this, that this program is new, launching this September. So there are still some details around things like scheduling, for example, of classes, or for example, a list of eligible employers, which are still in the works, but that will be coming together and available, closer to our program start date. We've got a few people wondering about the program potentially expanding to other campuses. A few people asking, for example, if it might be offered at Ivany next year. We don't have any word necessarily on any kind of expansion, but if any kind of announcement was made, it would be listed on the program page on the NSCC website. But my understanding, Donna, is for now, we're looking at the 3 campus options.
One thing that I will make note, though, is that this year we're finishing off the 2-year diploma, the DSS diploma, at both Kingstech and Sydney Waterfront campus. So in the year of 2026, we'll be also offering a part-time offering at Kingstech and Sydney Waterfront as well.
Oh, great. Yeah, so I guess a bit of expansion, not to new campuses, but expansion of delivery options for people. That's exciting. We've got someone asking a bit about what the schedule might look like for part-time, and I did just say that kind of stuff's being worked out. But do we know at this stage, would the classes be in the daytime? Would they be more evening and weekends? Is there any kind of, maybe a little bit of information that's available at this stage?
Again, I would just say that the in-person time probably wouldn't follow the normal circumstances that we would have for our current programs, where you would be coming on campus one day a week. It would probably be more sporadic than that. So that's probably all I can say at this point. But and again, it would be synchronous and asynchronous. So for the part-time program. For the full-time program, it is in person.
Sounds good. Is there a kind of salary range that graduates could expect to see? Potentially it's varied, but is there any kind of estimation that folks could keep in mind?
Yeah, Megan, I think it is fairly varied depending on, if you look at those lists of potential employers, there's quite a wide range of different places. I think it wouldn't be unfair to say that a lot of our graduates experience kind of, the low $20 an hour range. And of course, a lot of these places are unionized environments that are currently even under in negotiations and things like that. But there's also other benefits that are included, beyond the salaries. Often their employers have great benefit packages as well. And there's often shift premiums associated with it, because I think you probably talked about this earlier, but often we have shift work involved, and some of our organizations have some pretty substantial shift premiums as well that substantially increase. If you're working like an evening on the weekend, you could be looking at quite a few more dollars an hour. That seem fair, Donna? Yeah.
And how many, what's our kind of average class size that will likely be what we'd be looking for in the DSP program this fall? Do you know how many students you might have in each location?
About 25 is our normal capacity for what we're looking for. So small class size.
Great. Yeah, that's such a nice way to learn. You really get to know everybody, right? All right. Just looking through to see if there are any more questions that we've got time for. I know that we're coming up to the end of the session here. So we've got someone who's asking about, coming into the program as a mature student. And I think this is a good one to highlight, because if you walk into, really any NSCC program, you see students that are often coming from a wide variety of different education or work experience or life experience and different kinds of ages. Do we have any kind of understanding? I know this program will be new launching, but the DSS program that you were talking about, disability supports and services, which is sort of being transformed into disability support professional, are you seeing a mix of mature students coming in versus maybe new high school grads?
Absolutely. So, I think in every year it's a little bit different of a mix, but I think it's fair to say that pretty much every group that we've had go through have some students, as you were saying, Meg, that might be fresh out of high school and have, none or limited experience supporting people with disabilities. And there's other people that are kind of near the latter part of their career, that have lots of experience and maybe a completely different field or maybe this field. And I think our approach to that is that we really, everybody comes with a unique perspective, and we just really want students to bring whatever that is into the classroom and kind of incorporate it. So if there's a mature student, we kind of see that as being very valuable, and that they have a lot of experience and things that they can share with us, and a lot of skills probably that are transferable to whichever new role they kind of might enter after leaving us. Right? So yeah,
Right. Absolutely.
Short answer is yes, a wide variety of backgrounds and ages every single year.
And that prior experience, I think, can be so valuable to bring into the classroom, as you said, right? And of course, then into future to work environments. Okay, we've got a couple more questions here. I see a few about international students, so I'll just kind of answer those quickly, because I know there are a few people curious. The bursary funding isn't available for international students, unfortunately. The agreement with the province is looking at funding domestic learners only. And we've got someone curious if the program's eligible for a postgraduate work permit. It is not. It's not on the IRCC's approved list of programs. So international students are welcome to apply, but just know that it wouldn't allow you to then later apply for a permit to stay in Nova Scotia and continue to work. One more question about bursaries, which I will toss out to you two as the program experts here. We've got some people wondering, how many bursaries are available? Is there a chance that not everyone would get a bursary? Donna, what do you think? Is the plan that bursaries are dispersed among every eligible student who's interested, or is there a cap in terms of, how many there are to give out? I guess folks are wondering maybe how quickly they should apply.
Yeah, I would suggest to apply as early as possible to ensure that there is a seat for you. So usually the program is, once the 25 seats at each campus are complete, then there's a wait list, and so then students or applicants would go through a wait list process. But I would highly recommend to apply early and secure your seat. Especially with the bursary. In terms of the number of seats that we have available at our 3 campuses, we are very fortunate to say that the disability support program are willing to fund all of those seats. So that's just an amazing opportunity for anyone that's thinking about going back to school, and maybe, finances is a barrier for you to be able to do that. Then this is your opportunity to be able to make the most of that. So.
Yeah, such a great opportunity. The funding is really exciting. Wonderful. Well, I think we should wrap it up for today. I know there have been so many great questions coming in and lots of attendees who are joining us live. Donna and Chris, I'm really happy that you could be here to share all of your information and experience. If anyone has questions that we didn't answer in the session or you want to reach out later, feel free to email us at recruitment@nscc.ca. Myself and my colleagues in recruitment will be looking at your emails, and we can always also connect you with Donna or Chris if your question is more appropriate for them. So feel free to connect with anything you're curious about, and we can get you those answers. So really appreciate Donna and Chris, both of you joining, and everyone who's watching live at home. And if you're watching this as a recording later, thank you. You're welcome to reach out and apply as you're interested in the program. It's a new exciting one, and we're excited to have some new students coming joining us this September. All right, we'll say goodbye. Thanks, everybody. Have a good day.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.